Monday Matinee presents Revenge of the Battleaxes, Part 4.
We need to tell her.
We do not.
She has a right to know.
Right? What right? By whose laws?
I'd want to know.
Well, bully for you. But it doesn't help her and it doesn't help us. We continue on as we've been. I've heard enough.
This is not how we operate.
I said enough.
Hey, am I interrupting?
No, it's fine. Things just got pretty intense. Cynthia just needs a little alone time.
Thanks for waiting. Sorry for the holdup.
What caused your delay?
Time is a man-made construct, made to pull our day away from us, one tick at a time.
Perhaps, but you were still a little late.
I apologize. I just had something very odd happen on my way in.
This time, it's you who's starting with the story.
Not much of one, I promise. As I was coming into the tavern, the owner approached me.
And fired you. Well, you had a good run.
No, he paid me.
Why do you sound surprised by that?
'Cause he hadn't before. Ever. He always told me he kept a ledger of my room, board, clothing, and food costs more than my working time could cover. The end of every week I still owed.
But that proved not to be true.
No, it seemed he'd been running the numbers wrong. Or something. And he paid me all my back wages, along with a penalty for withholding it. Honestly, I've never had so much money in my life.
Did someone say money?
You're gonna want to hide that coin purse.
Nadeara, sweet Nadeara. You know you are my favorite serving wench, right? I'm sure I've told you that. What if I told you about a can't-lose opportunity where you could double that income?
If it's betting against the gods, don't count on it.
Another successful hunt?
Eventually, yes. But it got extreme.
Like last time? What did happen with Mbe?
That was just confusing. But it was mostly us fighting our way across a battlefield and then having to do it again and again and again.
And when he finally showed up, he just kept transforming. Bigger, stranger, harder to understand.
I can see why you're all so exhausted. And this battle was different?
Different doesn't cover it. Neither does battle. Have you ever been to Arksea?
The biggest city in the realm? I have not.
Not surprising. We were hunting Orsay.
The god of abundance.
That's a mistranslation. A better word would be hoarding.
What Orsay takes, he keeps, which also applies to real estate. The information I gathered said that his temple was deep in the heart of the city.
We thought that meant in the center, but nope.
Orsay wants to be constantly surrounded by people telling him how great he is, but is paranoid about being found. He has spent his eternity shifting between these desires.
One theory is that he grew the city around himself, like a great shell.
Which meant that somewhere in this sweeping spiral, a paranoid creature was hiding, surrounded by his most devout followers. We were gonna have to get messy.
But it was nothing you couldn't handle, right?
I knew I liked you, girl.
Cloreen, can I ask, how did you learn to fight so well?
Ha! Good luck getting anything out of her.
Her past is a mystery even to those of us closest to her.
I'll tell you.
What? Everyone, shut up! I've never heard this before.
A fish never knows what water is. It's always been there. It'll always be there. It's just a fact of life. That's what the chains were to me. It was only later that I found out that I was a slave. The cage was a comfort. Outside it, that's when things got bad.
Were you captured?
If I was, it was before my earliest memory. I knew no one looked like me. I was the only orc in the camp. The rule was whatever I wanted, I had to fight for. First, they locked me in with the small things. Kill it, and you can eat, they said. Each time, back into the pit. The beast in with me was a little bit bigger, a little bit meaner. Kill it, and you eat.
That's horrifying.
Now, sure. Then I wanted to eat, so I learned to kill for reward. Soon I wasn't the biggest or the strongest or the fastest thing in the pit, so I had to fight smarter. I learned to kill everything that crawled, swam, slithered, or climbed.
And that's when they start putting people in the pit, right?
Yeah, but what did I care? They didn't look like me. Sure, they talked, but what did it matter? At that point, I didn't know how much me there really was. Inside, I mean.
Is that when you met Sin?
Cynthia Rose was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I barely understood what that meant, but something deep in me woke up when I saw her. They'd captured her, put her in a cage near mine. Supposedly she was worth money, so they were keeping her to sell.
Disgusting.
I didn't know any different, only that I wasn't worth enough for them to sell off. I couldn't think what I could possibly say to her. I didn't have the words.
But she took care of that.
She did. She looked up at me and smiled, and like that, I was hers. Turns out she's even prettier on the inside. Cynthia talked to me like I was a real person. No one had ever done that before. And she was fine that mostly I just listened. I like to hear her voice.
Oh, you got all Twitter-pated.
Don't get it twisted. I was still spending my days tearing out throats and gouging eyes, but at night she'd tell me stories of the outside world. Things I'd never imagined. Before, I'd kill for food or clothing or whatever scraps they had for me. Now I was doing it just so I could get back in the cage next to her.
What changed?
The great ruiner. Money. I found out later my captors were the followers of Orsay, whose greed is insatiable. They'd finally found a buyer for Cynthia. They came and dragged her out of her cage, placed her in chains, and...
You snapped.
No, it was more like I came alive. I saw two futures. The certainty of my life as it was, that someday I would be just a little bit too slow and some beast would make a meal of me. Or the uncertain one out there in the frightening world Sin had been telling me about. I made my choice. I barely felt the door give way. Turns out I could have left any time.
It was just that you had nowhere to go.
I freed Cynthia. We were about to escape when I felt something I didn't understand.
The pangs of love?
Freedom. It filled my soul. I'd never experienced a joy like that, and that's when I knew I couldn't go.
What? What are you talking about? You're out of the cage. Run!
No, I couldn't. Because I wasn't the only prisoner. I'd been given a feeling like nothing I'd ever known, and I was going to spread it to as many as I could. I tore open every door, broke every lock, and then we turned on our captors.
Yeah, you did.
We choked them with our chains and hung their bodies on the doors of the cages that they'd kept us in. I've done the same with every slaver I've come across in our travels. Even leashes get my blood racing. You're not a slave here, are you, Nadeara?
No. Until today, I thought I might be, and I've probably muttered it a time or two.
I thought I was going to have a close conversation with that bartender.
So this last quest, to Arksy.
It was personal, yeah, and it got pretty intense.
But first, there was body switching.
Wait, what?
Oh, yes. It was very revealing about ourselves and each other.
You traded bodies with each other.
I got to swing a battle axe that weighs as much as me.
She cut off a man's leg.
Yeah.
It was quite messy.
How did this happen?
It was the price of entry. Each of the, I guess you call them layers, were like dank, dirty pubs. Not like your place. It's hardly dank at all.
Thanks.
To pass from one to the next, we had to surrender all we knew, which it turns out meant our skills, experience, even our comfortability with our own bodies.
Which begs the question, why do you have so many glamours running at the same time?
That is not relevant to the story. In the trade, I got to be a cat kind.
You lucky girl. You could have given me a bath before leaving, though.
There was no water.
That's not the kind of bath she means.
Oh, respectfully, ew.
Hey, don't knock it.
Your eyes are exceptional. Can you actually see heat?
It's more temperature differential, so like where it was warm but now it's cold. But yeah, basically. Pretty cool, right?
And slinging spells is way harder than it looks.
You were in Pearl's body?
No, Nikki's. I figure it was just point at a thing, fire leaps out of your hands, and whoosh. But it's like doing math while balancing and reciting a poem at the same time. Mad respect, girl.
Oh, well, thank you. It's nice to be appreciated.
Where did you end up?
In Cynthia Rose. And it was illuminating.
How so?
I had always just assumed that Pearl was the one most in touch with nature, what with all her prattling on about energies and the earth spirit.
Did you say prattling?
But inside Cynthia's body, she's listening to a whole symphony, while we are barely hearing birdsong. The trees, the flowers, the animals, They're all talking to her all the time.
Really? I never got that from her.
Her concentration must be amazing. I was overwhelmed in seconds. Plus, there's the negotiation.
The what?
I suppose it could be bullying, but that's not really her style. To do what she does, she's asking for assistance, favors, aid from natural spirits. Show me which of you are poisonous. Hide my footprints as I pass. Grant me your strength to protect me in this fight. She's doing all of that while she's leading us in battle.
I told you, she's astounding.
So why is she alone?
Oh, she's never alone. She's just not with us.
Things took a turn. The point of the swap was to make us envious of what each other had, to tear us apart.
But we are such a harmonious unit that in learning each other's strengths, it actually brought us closer together.
Which really pissed him off and made him less likely to show up.
But you had your charms.
That's not really how it works. You can't just throw down some chicken blood, say a few magic words, and they show up.
Each god must be summoned differently. Each require their own series of rituals, like a combination of a lock.
Plus a bit of oomph that only living beings can provide.
The spark for the flame.
And to summon Orsay?
First, we had to play this sheltering song over and over again. Now, I'm damn good on the fiddle, but that got old real fast.
And then we had to argue.
But play acting just wouldn't suffice. It had to be intense, real, summoning up our life energies.
We really got into it.
About that. I'm sorry for what I said, Pearl. I couldn't...
I understand. It was necessary for our quest.
I don't apologize for any of it.
Fendi!
Hey, some stuff had to be said, and I said it. Now it's all out and we can deal with it. I feel unburdened.
You would. For some of us, it wasn't so easy. I've known Cynthia for much longer than the others, and she me, so we really knew how to hurt each other.
Which was like catnip to Orsay, if you know what I mean.
So it worked?
Oh, yes. He showed up in all his splendor.
A little shorter than the others, not to speak ill of the dead, but...
And?
Well, I had to stab him like 15 times. The little bugger just would not die. It was messy. Oh, you probably don't want to hear that part.
I surely didn't. But what happens after? Is there like a burst of light or something?
There is! And usually a loud sound. This time it was like a chorus of devils screeching out the same note. Within May, it was the biggest explosion you could imagine. We were blind and deaf for a few minutes after.
We just clutched at each other in a pile, like a litter of kittens. Oh, sorry, Fendi.
No, that's dead on. Brought back some happy childhood memories for me.
And then?
Then it got really cool.
Have you ever found something you thought was lost, and for a moment, you get that feeling in your core? Like all is right with the world.
I have.
Imagine that, but 1,000 times more intense.
1,000 seems excessive. How do you imagine 1,000?
Do you have even a scrap of poetry in you?
Each time is different, like another bit of light on the spectrum. With Orsay, it was a wave of generosity. We spent, an hour just exchanging goods with each other?
Which reminds me, I still have your climbing boots.
Keep them.
They don't fit. And I mean, I could stand both feet in one of them, but I appreciate the gesture.
And I appreciate your appreciation.
It's been like this all day. Just don't ask me for anything. I like my stuff. But you could totally have anything of mine that you want. Dang it, stupid god!
I shudder to think what's going to happen if we get to kill Aranti.
The god of adoration. Why? What's the big deal?
He's also known as the god of love.
That's a common mistranslation.
Nikki?
What? He was known as... Oh.
And yeah, brethren, on that day, low but many boundaries were pushed.
On that note, let me get you all refills, and I promise I won't ask for a tip tonight.
But you totally deserve one. A big one.
You okay, boss?
Since when do you call me boss?
since I knew it'd get a laugh out of you. You all right?
Better. Thanks. You certainly were the chatty one tonight.
Sure was. That girl has a way of getting you to open up. You sure we can't tell her?
Look, I'm not going to lie to her. I'm not 100% sure I could. We answer what she asks. We keep the conversation moving. That's how it works.
But the lying.
All the things we've done to get here, and it's the lying that bothers you? We have literal god blood on our hands, on our souls.
Yeah. It's just that she's a good kid.
They were all good kids. Don't forget that.
Monday Matinee's Revenge of the Battleaxes is written by Kyle Olson, performed by Jess Harris, Anastasia Anthony Plum, Brooke Unverfirth, Mandy McClanahan, Kara Gallo, and Puneet Bajwa. Directed by Kyle Olson, produced by Ryan Fitzpatrick. Production assistance provided by Kim Butts. Recorded at Parametric Studios with John Suru of Lazy Ape Studios. Monday Matinee's Revenge of the Battleaxes is produced by Ox and Hare Entertainment. Follow us on Twitter at Ox and Hare, check out our Facebook page, or come by our website, oxandhare.com, where we've got a couple of sword-swinging ladies, a filmmaker under siege, and a group of adventurers on a doomed quest. Just not all at once. Also, we now have merchandise, so pick up a t-shirt of your favorite adventurer at oxandhare.threadless.com. Come along.